What's up? My name's Chris. Same with last week. I run Cyborg Social Marketing LLC, and I'm with my friend Nick here.
Nick Piscatelli, Maryland Commercial Ventures. And we're going to talk about commercial real estate today.
So I guess the first thing on our items today is something to do with the current mortgage rates. So what's up with the mortgage rates right now compared to maybe like the last year or so of rates? How's it looking?
Well, the mortgage rates today are pushing 8%, and let's go back 2 years and they were talking 3 to 4%. So you can imagine it's a big jump. So what's happening now with commercial properties is there is about $1 trillion worth of mortgages coming due in the next 2 years that need to be refinanced or ballooned or reset.
Okay.
So they're going to have to find new financing. It's going to be an issue because a lot of these properties are not worth what they were when they were financed at 2 or 3%. Some of it is due to COVID because a lot of the retail, some of the offices as well, took a hit. The retail, if it's gone, there's no tenant there. If the and you know what's happening with offices now, people are working from home, so
Telework's
they
getting real
don't need all
popular.
that space. So those are the issues that are coming up, which is not going to be easy. But it gives a good opportunity for someone that would like to get into commercial because you'll be buying at a lot lower prices than you would have a few years ago.
So basically what you're saying is that the current expense or the current rate at which these commercial real estate properties were mortgaged for has depreciated because now there's a lot less people occupying these spaces.
Correct.
So one, the price is going to fall and the value of it's going to fall, but the people who had it before are going to find themselves in a really tight space, right? They're going to have to offload their properties because if you were paying 2% of 40K before, now you're paying 3 times as much on that mortgage.
Exactly.
You're getting really tight on your profit margins. So maybe the move is just to offload it onto someone else or find another investment because with the increasing mortgage rates, not only are you paying the previous expense, but now you're paying it with an increased rate on top of that.
Right.
Okay.
And if you have a mortgage that resets, now all of a sudden you're stuck with coming up with new financing or selling it.
And both those are kind of difficult options, right?
Yeah.
Kind of not really a job for one man.
No, but if it balloons, then you may have to just come up with a lump sum, which would be great if your property increased in value. You could afford to do that. But if it decreased in value, then you're not going to be able to, it's not going to be feasible.
So then maybe, I suppose that just looking at it bluntly, you could very easily say retail and offices have really degraded in value. But how do you feel about like industrial flex spaces, hospitality spaces, and I guess multifamilies? Are those increasing, decreasing? How do you feel about those personally?
Well, multifamily is pretty safe as long as you've got a good rent roll and a good cash flow. But right now in Baltimore, unfortunately, rents have taken a big drop in the third quarter, like the biggest drop in 15 years.
So can you reflect that in percentages or numbers for me?
Percentage-wise, I think it's 7% down.
And usually it increases 3% a year.
Yeah.
So it's down
Yeah.
10% theoretically.
So they're down this year, and so that affects the mortgages because if your property, if you can't collect the same rents that you were collecting a few years ago, now you've got a problem with cash flow and problem with a balloon or a reset coming up. Yeah, so we're going to go through some tough times here in the next 2 years unless they can get these rates down rather quickly.
Do you think the rates are going to go up again? Or
I think they're going to go up one more time, and then they're going to start coming down in 24. But I'm hearing they're not come down until June of 24. So it's a long way off still.
do Do you know how many points down they're going to come?
Well, they project one, but you don't know. You
So-
don't know what the Fed is going to do.
From 8.75 to 7.75.
They don't know what they're doing.
The federal government.
Yeah, they really kind of screwed things up because they took the rates up so fast, now there's nowhere to go. And they should have taken them up sooner. Remember when they talked about this inflation is only transitional? Well, that didn't prove to be the case, did it?
You could say that for the last 70 years. But, all right. Well, I mean, I know that at the height of COVID, like for residential at least, there were 40 buyers to one piece of property or one seller. And now it's looking more like 4 to 1. Does commercial have that same kind of trend right now? There's a lot more buyers than sellers, or?
You're talking about residential real estate?
I suppose that's the most relevant, right?
Yeah. There were 40 buyers to one.
At the height of COVID.
Yeah.
Now it's like 4 to 1-ish.
Yeah, well, the rates did that.
Yeah. But I mean, has that had the same effect in commercial?
Yeah, it's all about demand and supply. It's the same thing. If there's more demand than supply, the price goes up. If there's more supply than demand, it goes down.
But I suppose there's also things like tenant occupancy and the value of the properties themselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know, a wise person said that the buildings don't change, just the people do.
That has some implications.
So, but there's a good program I was reading about recently where the Biden administration has decided they're going to pump in $35 billion into downtown office buildings for investors to convert them to apartments. So that's a good bit of money that can spread around to some of these cities where they have a lot of vacant office buildings.
Do a lot of the office buildings around Baltimore qualify as historic buildings?
Only if they're in a historic district.
Are there any properties in Baltimore that maybe you think qualify for both of those categories?
Yeah, there are still a few left, but you know, this transition has been taking place in Baltimore for the last decade, where they've been converting the office buildings downtown into apartments. So, yeah, that was great because you get the 20% from the state and 20% from the feds. So you'd have 40% if it was a historical building that you'd get back in tax benefits.
And then I guess now with the current initiative, where they're also adding more money onto that, right?
Yeah, I think they'll do it by buying down the mortgages.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the construction mortgage that you're going to need to convert a building. They'll pay down so you can get a lower rate.
So I guess the way I see it is there's like the mortgage for the building, and then you can ask for more money for construction. And this second part is the construction mortgage, right?
Right.
And they'll basically pay for that so that you're basically just buying the original mortgage.
Yeah, or they'll maybe even provide mortgages themselves. And they are also submitting some of the federal owned buildings, the federal office buildings that they have that are vacant.
They're selling them to private?
They will sell to the private and provide low-cost financing. Yeah. So that'll help stimulate the urban areas.
Hopefully it'll bring some jobs in and bring in some more money and help Baltimore like do a little better. Because struggling neighborhoods everywhere.
Yeah. So what else can we talk about?
Well, I guess, okay. So do you have any listings right now for office spaces in Baltimore?
I have a warehouse that could be converted to offices.
Would it fall into this category?
No, it's not a historic property.
So,
I have shells that can be converted.
It's a shell.
Shell is a property that basically is a gut rehab.
Oh wow. So it's pre-gutting, or is it? It's already been gutted.
It's already been gutted.
Huh.
It's got to be put back together.
What's it usually cost to put a shell back together?
Well, it depends on the property. But, I mean, if you buy one in a good location, I think that's the way to go. Because, downtown business district is always going to be pretty solid. So, and some of these buildings may be in a historical district and some may not. You can always apply to the feds for, or the state to rezone the property too.
Interesting. So maybe is there an opportunity to like wholesale properties on the commercial side?
It's not so easy
Probably really difficult, huh?
as it would be in residential.
I suppose it would be much riskier, much more difficult, but lucratively it'd be also a lot greater.
It's a big flip.
Mm.
Now, I bought one many years ago for $2 million from this investor in New York, and the state had just vacated the building. And so that was my thing. I had to flip it. I had 2 years to settle, which was good.
Nice.
I had time either to get financing or sell it. So I decided to sell it. And the guy that wanted to buy it told me, well, you need to get the garage next to it or I'm not buying it. I always buy buildings with garage parking. So I said, well, I don't own that garage. He said, well, I'll give you another $1 million to buy it.
Damn.
If it's more, it's on you. If it's less, you can keep the difference. So I did did it for a little less without knowing the next door neighbor how much I needed that parking lot, or I didn't have a sale.
Keep it quiet.
So that was a bit of a sweat there for a couple of months.
Huh.
But yeah, and they bought it and they converted it, and that was an office building. It's called the Standard Oil Building.
Mm. Interesting. So I guess let's talk a little bit